Hello and welcome to the District 91 Hybrid Pioneers series. Today we have none other than a distinguished guest, John Staley. John is an experienced Toastmaster and has made his living as a general IT consultant for the last 20 years. He joined Bicester Speakers in 2003 and is currently the club president. Bicester Speakers have produced 10 hybrid meetings in 2 different locations. It would be fair to say John is still learning how to produce hybrid meetings. Welcome to the Hybrid Pioneers recording, John.
Thank you.
We also have my distinguished colleague, Marta, with us this evening, and she will be asking the first few questions. Welcome, Marta. Over to you.
Welcome, John. Welcome, Mo. Thank you. John, please let us know, how did you go about the process of embarking on hybrid meetings, and why?
You may recall we were in lockdown and every meeting was a Zoom meeting. We thought it was important that we got back to in-person meetings as soon as we possibly could. May Robson, who was starting Whitney at that time, was also minded the same way. And her IT chap, Ben, and myself independently set about the design. For me, it was a bit of IT challenge, just from a technical point of view, how do we do this? And I set up a design, Ben set up a design, and I helped. Then I went over to Whitney and we modified 1 or 2 things, and had a couple of practices and trial goes, so that by the time we got to the first Whitney meeting, we had a pretty good idea of where we were and what we needed to do. From that point onwards, it was the logic and the structure of the meeting from a Toastmaster point of view which became paramount, because we'd already crossed all the bridges of how much bandwidth do we need and that sort of thing. So by the time we did it for ourselves at Bicester, the design was pretty well known, and we modified the design slightly to use the highest quality kits that my colleague John actually had in stock, and my kit as well, to see to what extent we could do a really good job using the very best kits that we could afford. And at Bicester we were using, and are still using, about £2,000 worth of kit. With Whitney, they're using about £500 worth of kits. Of course, nobody's paid anything for any of this. It's our kit still. It doesn't belong to the club.
How excellent. And I'm so glad that we can have you here on this series, on this Hybrid Pioneers series, because we also had a chance to speak with Mary about it. So it is so nice that you are making reference and connection between Whitney Speakers and Bicester. Was the first hybrid meeting easier or more difficult than you thought, and why?
I'm pleased to tell you that the first hybrid meeting we did was much easier than we expected, because we put a lot of effort into planning. And also, if you're an IT guy, you have lots of redundancy. Yeah, I had spare laptops, spare everything, so that if anything broke, we could actually do it. As it happens, I don't think we had to use any of the redundancies until actually relatively recently, where John and I had to improvise quite a lot because we were missing 1 piece of kit. But by and large, it's actually got, as long as we got the planning right, and the rest of it was very straightforward.
That is just fabulous. That is a dream of any club president, I would say, because the technical hoops were sometimes a biggest, sometimes for someone biggest problems that hindered the hybrid. I would like to ask Mo to ask you some further question, John. Over to you, Mo.
Thank you very much, Marta. And interesting word there, redundancy, you mentioned, which ties into this question. When people talk about the critical essentials, they don't usually make reference to redundancies. I think that's going to be one of the key takeaways in terms of the fact that people need to bear in mind that things sometimes will fail. So things sometimes will just not work as they should. And as such, you've already mentioned that. The question still is, what in your view are the critical essentials to guarantee successful Toastmasters hybrid meetings?
The most critical thing you need at your site is internet. If you don't have that, then you're going nowhere. This is a bit obvious, but we did turn up one night and the internet was off for maintenance. So that was it. The second most important thing to think about is bandwidth. Forget downloads, that's not hugely important. It's uploads that we're interested in. And you need, in general, about 10 up from the site that you're in. If you use old-fashioned ADSL, this ain't ever going to work sensibly. But if you have reasonably high-speed broadband with good upload, then there's no particular reason why it shouldn't work. So you need to be careful with your location. So scouting out, what's the speed? Don't care what the download speed is, not interested, but I am interested in the upload speed. Other than that, I think you need a plan, and we find it very helpful if the Zoom master, who is quite busy, is sitting next door to the Toastmaster of the evening, so they can communicate about other things. That's it.
Thank you very much. The one thing I must say at this point in time is there's a consideration to run another series of recordings or interviews, which is going to be focused more on the technicalities of hybrid meetings. We will be having a conversation about that at a later time. The next question really, as far as this series goes, really is that what is a positive that hybrid meetings have provided? You have had 10 hybrid meetings so far that neither online or in person could have.
The primary thing is that to some extent it's kept the club together with people who are unable for medical or other reasons able to attend an in-person meeting. Indeed, the crunch point was when we had to put the membership rates up, and if we went back to in-person, then clearly there would be 3 or 4 people who would have to drop membership. From a cash point of view, that's a pretty high price to pay, but it's what we did, and for us it's still very much of an experiment rather than set in stone for a long run. In person for us rocks. Zoom, everybody's pretty Zoom tired, I think it would be fair to say. So that's still work in progress as far as we're concerned.
Okay, thank you very much. I would say that the choice and flexibility, considering what's going on now, some people don't have the confidence to go into a room. Some people live with people with what they refer to as high risk. Maybe they have underlying conditions, and in a way, it's sensible that such people should still be allowed to join a Toastmasters Club and improve their communication and leadership skills, even if they can't attend in person or choose not to attend in person. So the key thing then I would take away really is choice. And choice is a very powerful thing. Thank you very much for that. I will now hand over to Marta for the next set of questions. Over to you, Marta.
Thank you, Mo. John, I would like to know, what is your best hybrid meeting experience so far?
Thank you, Marta. Yes, the best we've had so far, where everybody felt comfortable at the end of the meeting, was relatively recently, where we had somebody, a Zoom master, who wasn't a techie, was trying it for the first time, which was good because everybody needs to know how to operate this. The majority of the people attending were in person, and there was an atmosphere in the room. And there were a few people online, but not many. And they too felt part of the atmosphere. The other way around, where you have 3 or 4 people rushing around in the room and everybody else online, doesn't really work.
Yes, I would really agree with you on that. Because at Canterbury Communicators, when we had our hybrid meetings, it was the feeling, the more people in person, the better experience, isn't it? So it's interesting that you also echo the same. How did your club select the equipment and decide on the setup?
I think it would be fair to say that the key thing for us at Bicester was John and I elected to use Macs rather than Windows machines. They are much more stable. I deal with both Windows and Macs, so it makes no difference to me. John, who works as an IT guy and from home, had huge amounts of really very nice kit, which he uses every day to communicate with his work colleagues. So his kit is particularly high, particularly good, shall I say. I had a projector, which again is suitable for projecting a small cinema if you need to. So we were using very high quality kit. This is completely on purpose. I know that other clubs have chosen to try and work out what the cheapest kit they can use. So we elected to go the other way and say, let's see whether we can get some value out of using the best kit that we can sensibly afford. Of course, nobody's paid for this yet. It still belongs to John and me.
How wonderful that they have you, and that you can make use of this equipment, isn't it? It's just a fantastic story to hear. Thank you, John, for this. And I would like to hand over to Mo for another set of questions. Mo.
Thank you, Marta. This is something that is close and dear to me when we begin to talk about transferable skills. Welcome to Toastmasters. Most people come to Toastmasters to learn how to improve their presentation and communication skills. Some people discover leadership and then also embark on that journey of developing their leadership skills. A lot of the committee roles, when we try to explain or maybe you even sell it to our members, we talk about transferable skills. If you're a VPPR in the real world, those skills are transferable and can be useful for if you're a business owner. In terms of hybrid meetings specifically, Zoom masters, the world is changing. I don't think the world is going to go back to the way it was pre-COVID. In terms of running hybrid meetings, are there any transferable skills you think our members can develop?
I'm going to ignore for a moment the IT skills because, frankly, 20% of the general public can't even drive a computer, let alone run all the kits that we use. So only some of the members will actually understand how to be Zoom masters. However, if they decide they want to do this, then they will accumulate a few more IT skills. The most important skill that I think could be developed, we sort of have already in the Toastmaster of the evening, except that to run a successful Zoom meeting, you actually need to have a commander of the whole lot who understands what's going on, both on a technical basis and a Toastmaster basis, but actually doesn't really participate, so that the person sitting behind watching things can see where it started to go wrong and do something about it, because the people who are actually involved in it are too busy doing what they're doing to understand the next bit is going to go wrong. So you actually need a commander sitting behind the Toastmaster of the evening and the Zoom master, just to make sure the whole thing is running okay. So command, I think, is a skill that people may learn.
Command, okay. I will have to reflect on that. I think that there are lots of transferable skills that can be developed. And again, this is a conversation that is continuing. And thank you very much for that. The next question really is, when meetings were face-to-face, the biggest issue face-to-face meetings is somebody getting there early to set up their room, somebody staying behind to pack up their room, depending on the type of venue that you have. Undoubtedly, we've been online for quite a while, and now some clubs are back to face-to-face and some are now hybrid. Are there any extra demands put on the committee and in-person attendees with particular respect to hybrid meetings?
I think it would be fair to say that in terms of the committee, not yet. When we start talking about real money long term, then some decisions will need to be made. How do we finance this? And the answer is I have yet to get together a business model that works properly, given that most clubs have about 20 people. So even if you're using £500 worth of kit, you've got to find some way of financing that with about 20 people. If you're using what John and I would like to use, £3 worth of kit, then affording this is really very, very difficult indeed. So the finance question is a big one which we have yet to address because we're using borrowed kit. So far as the demands on people in the meeting, we find that we have to arrive about an hour before the meeting starts to set up the room and check that everything works. Mary at Weston Speakers insists that all the kit arrives in one suitcase and leaves in one suitcase. We haven't got that far yet, and I'm not sure, given that it's all borrowed kit, that we can do that. And also, where we meet, we cannot leave anything. Everything has to be lugged in and lugged out. We're getting used to it. It's getting better. The first time we took it really carefully. The de-rigging of everything actually needs to be done fairly carefully because it's quite. I've just lost a laptop, which I only discovered today. John's got it, but it doesn't matter. But you know, those sort of things. During the meeting, it would be fair to say the Zoom master cannot be part of the meeting properly. There's not enough spare room to listen to the speeches and listen to properly participate in a listening and evaluating way. It's just not possible to do everything at once because you need to be several steps ahead of what's going to happen next to get all the technical and other things lined up, and if necessary, present cards to the camera to say that the speaker's just about online is just about to run out of time. So and there's a lot of things, unexpected things you just have to make up on your own. So the Zoom master is executing, and the Toastmaster of the evening is doing his or her normal job, if you see what I mean, of getting the people to do things in the right order. So it's a very high workload for those people who are running the kit. It's quite enjoyable if you're online, because it's just like a Zoom meeting in many ways, and that's easy. It's a little bit distracting if you're a member of the audience, because you're not quite certain who can hear what. So there's still quite a few challenges in getting an atmosphere together. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And thank you very much. One of the key things I would say is about Toastmasters is the challenges really are the opportunities. Hybrid meetings are, we're on a journey with hybrid meetings to develop something and provide a resource for our members, provide flexibility, and you certainly are a pioneer in that in that journey. And thank you very much for your contribution so far. And as I said, I am sure the conversation will continue when we begin to now also talk about the more technical aspects of it. I think a key word to take away from a lot of the challenges you've highlighted is the need for us to try and simplify where possible to make sure that everybody that attends can participate and enjoy the meeting. I will now pass over to Marta, who will ask you the last two set of questions. Thank you very much, John. Over to you, Marta.
Thank you, Mo. John, it is wonderful to hear all the points that you are making, and you mentioned already that at least several, maybe one person, maybe two people are really active, and they cannot really listen actively to what is going on in the meeting, to the speeches and so on, because they have to keep the outlook for technical things. Is it something that you do as a committee, the challenges that the committee in your club sees when you go forward?
The primary challenge for us is to see to what extent other members of the club can run the kit, because you cannot rely on just one or two people running the kit and effectively running the meeting. That is pretty much of a break point. We're currently, I think we've now got two other people apart from John and myself checked out to run the kit and be part of the meeting. And the success or failure of hybrid meetings will depend on to what extent other people can actually do this stuff. So that's number one. Number two, can we improve on the presentation of the audience to the online audience, the Zoom audience, if you like? This is a particularly hard one. Now, if you look at my reference, which is Question Time on BBC One, there is a man with a camera and a man with a boom mic wandering around the audience, at which point to the Zoom audience, anybody speaking, you can see them clearly with every nuance and understand what they're saying and to what extent they're making their points. The problem with our current hybrid meeting is those people in the audience, you have no clue as to how they're reacting unless you're actually physically there. It's much easier to see how the Zoom audience is reacting. So in my world, in an ideal world, I would not only have a man with a boom mic, but probably a chap with a camera catching each speaker. Now, from a technical point of view, there is apparently a very expensive piece of kit that can do this. So you can focus on the next speaker and go boom, bit like a anyway, but this is John and me, having fun rather than it being particularly real. But if we could find an auto system that would focus on the speaker in the room, that would be pretty much ideal. That would bring the meeting together properly. There are other issues surrounding the sound of the audience to the Zoom attendees. The sound problems limit to what extent you can have a unified meeting where everybody's apparently having fun. So yeah, one side or the other might miss the laughter, and I think that's a great shame. So there are lots of things that we haven't done yet. Nothing that the BBC hasn't already done, but I have to ask you the question, do we want to become a broadcasting organisation, or do we want to be Toastmasters?
That's a very good question. Very good question, and I think that, John, at Bicester you do a lot more than looking at the technical side than some other clubs. For example, I'm really learning many points from your experience to use or look at when we are conducting further hybrid meetings at Canterbury Communicators, and look at those things also at other different clubs. But I would like at my last question would be, what is the best possible outlook you would predict with Toastmaster hybrid meetings in the future?
Marta, I think, to be absolutely realistic, doing a hybrid every time for every meeting is not going to help the growth of the club hugely. In fact, what it's tended to do with us is help those people who could come to the physical meeting to actually attend on Zoom because it's more convenient. So this is not going to help the growth of our club. So I think hybrid meetings will become a special treat now and again, rather than the norm, until we can overcome the sound, the video, the camera. There's a lot of things which the BBC do very well, but we're not the BBC. So I think hybrid meetings will become a special treat. What I would say and like to add is that the business model, if you like, of hybrid meetings means that you need lots more people to make it work. And that means, for me, lots more people in the room, lots more people online. And we can do this. So it's a special meeting for, let's say, people from India, 50 of, come to see quite a lot of us, to see how we do what we do. So each meeting could easily turn into a project. And indeed, to finance this, and this is me talking completely off the wall, to finance this, you actually need more people sending money into the club to actually afford to do this anyway. So you're going to have to find a different style and type of meeting to make this worthwhile.
Yeah, I think that that combination of many factors can have an impact, a good impact on that, as you said. So good luck with all of those, with all plans, and congratulations on running those successful hybrid meetings so far. And thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be our guest today.
Not at all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Marta, and thank you very much, John. I am sure that you are going to extend an invitation to anybody watching this who wants to come and share your experience, well, hybrid meetings at online. When do you meet? And if people wanted to join your hybrid meetings, how could they join?
If you go to EasySpeak, you can get in touch with us immediately. We meet on the first Thursday and the third Thursday of every month at Garth House in Bicester. In particular, we would welcome in-person visitors. And as I say, please get in touch with us via EasySpeak.
Thank you very much, and looking forward to visiting Bicester soon. Thank you very much, Marta, and thank you very much, John.